If you saw my previous videos telling the story of how I bought my land without having any money and why I moved off grid, this story is a story within that story, and it changed my life. Um, Basically, I was living on a ranch outside of LA where I had moved and I didn't have a car. I had a bicycle. I didn't have any money except what I was getting from residual checks from my stunt work that I used to do. And I was trying to sell my filmmaking equipment to keep me going. So I was paying the rent for about 3 months. And a little story before that was one of the reasons I moved to that ranch was because I wanted to expand. I wanted to learn how to raise my own food, and I wanted to have chickens and goats, which I couldn't do in the city on an urban farm. And I had a boyfriend at the time who said he wanted to buy land for us. And we went and looked at some land, and it was desert land that was more affordable. And we liked it, and he was going to come up with the money to buy it. So I said, well, in the meantime, how about I rent a room on a ranch somewhere in that kind of environment, desert environment, so I can practice growing food, so I can learn what all's involved with it. And he was going to come visit me on the weekends. And so I started doing that, and I cultivated a ton. I mean, I planted so much. I dug and I planted. I covered this guy's property, his ranch, with gardens. And within days, rabbits ate everything I planted as soon as it popped up, and it was a huge learning experience for me. But then it didn't take very long for me to realize that, my boyfriend at the time, he was a really nice guy, but we just weren't the right match. He wasn't really into living on the land and the land like I was. He was more into me, and I was more into the land than I was into him, and I had to get real about that. And so I broke it off, but now here I am on my own in this remote location. The ranch that I was renting a room on was backed up against national forest or wilderness area. And so here I am out there by myself and with just a bicycle. And everything, I was learning how to build things, and I was learning more about nature. And one of the things I have to say is that the guy who owned the place, he wasn't a very nice guy, but his perception of nature was very negative. And someone coming from the city and not understanding about wildlife and stuff, and having him be the one who tells me, how things are, I'm glad I was smart enough to not just fully believe him and find out for myself. But that's another story. So here I am. I've been there 3 months, and then suddenly I don't have the money to pay the rent. And I've been living on faith, and it's been working. And suddenly it's not working. And I went into a really dark place over this because I did not want to go back to the city. Nothing in me wanted to be back in the city. All I wanted to do was grow food and live on the land. And I caught myself going into this really dark place, feeling really desperate and down and out. And I remembered the spiritual teachings that I've heard from a number of different places about how you have to believe, you have to have faith, you have to believe, you have to see and envision what it is you want in your life. Life is not supposed to be this crappy experience that you just suck it up and deal with. You're supposed to live your dreams. And so when I remembered that, I was like, okay, well, if I could have anything I want, absolutely anything I want, what do I want? And what I came up with was that I wanted to find a room for rent in exchange for work somewhere near the land that I originally was looking at with my former boyfriend, so I could work towards rent to own or buying it or something. And I wanted to be able to sell my crafts that I make there. So, well, that sounds easy enough, right? Except I have no car and no job and no money. How am I going to do that? I started looking online for rooms for rent there. And I'm like, really, what am I going to say to these people when I message them? Hi, I have no car, job, or money, and I want a room. Like, really? And then I got this strong feeling to look on the map, because there was a dirt road down the road from me that I had seen before, and it went into this huge mountain range behind where I was. And I was looking on the map and I'm like, it looks like this road goes through the mountains to this town that I was looking at the land. And it was about 14 miles away. So I don't have any way to get there, right? But I'm looking at this road and I'm like, maybe I could ride my bike there. And I had this, I mean, and when I'm telling you this, I sound like a total insane person, but I have lived by my faith and trust so much in my life that crazy things like that just work out for me, that I would actually even entertain the thought. So the next morning, I felt the desire to do this. So I did. I got on my bike. I had a little bottle of water. It was the hottest time of year. That's kind of a dumb thing to do. And I rode down to that dirt road and I just kept riding, and it went deep into the mountains. And as and I'm not knowing what I'm going to do when I get to this town. I'm just going because I felt like doing it. And I went around a corner in this canyon. It was September, middle September. It was the hottest time of year in the desert. I'm in this canyon. I come around the corner and there's this huge tree that's lush and green and covered in cherries in the desert. And I was just, what in the world is this? And that's another story that I'm going to do a video about later, because I found out later that that is an incredibly valuable food source, staple food source, not fruit source, staple food source that Native Americans used. But that's for another video. Anyway, so as I'm riding through this canyon and I'm riding through the mountains, I am basically doing a meditation, because I had learned that if you believe that you already have what it is you want to have, that's how you manifest it. But to believe is deeper than just here. To believe is in here and in your guts, in your loins. You have to know it with your whole being. And so I was making the effort with every pedal of the bicycle. I was just feeling it in my body that I already had what I wanted, that I already had this room for rent in exchange for work next to this land, and I could sell my crafts in this town. I was believing it, I was feeling it, I was going. I ended up having a really awesome ride. It was like 4 hours it took me to get over this whole mountain range, and I came out onto this road on the other side, and now I'm out of water, and it's the hottest time of year. But I wasn't worried. And I had to go up this really big, long road that I pushed my bike on because I wasn't riding it. And as I was pushing my bike up this road, I ran into a number of people who filled up my water bottle. So I had enough water, I was fine. And then I rode down the hill into this town. And the first person I meet in this town is someone who's sitting outside of a gift shop having a yard sale in the parking lot. And I started talking to her, and I ended up sitting down and we started talking. And within a very short amount of time, she offered me a room for rent on her ranch in exchange for work, cleaning horse stalls. But then she says, but I need a $250 deposit. And at this point, I'm just believing. So I'm like, okay, I had no idea how I was going to get $250. So, and then she takes me and introduces me to the owner of the shop, the gift shop, and I show her pictures on my phone of all the craft stuff I was making, and she's like, oh yeah, for sure, we'll sell your stuff here. So then the lady who has the ranch that, wants me to move in there, we put my bike in the back of her truck, and she gives me a ride home. And as soon as I get home, my phone starts ringing, people wanting to buy my camera equipment, whereas before nobody was buying it. And I mean, if that's not a sign that I was not meant to stay on that ranch. I didn't have money to pay the rent, but as soon as I decided to leave and found an opportunity to leave, then money started coming to me. Then a guy had just moved onto the same ranch that I was going to leave into a different room there, and we became friends, and he had a truck, and he's like, oh, well, I have a truck, I'll help you move. So we loaded all my stuff up and he moved me to the new place, and I had the money for the deposit because I'd sold my camera equipment. And so now here I am at a new place that's even further away. So I can't ride a mile to get to the bus stop like I could at the last ranch. It's like 7 miles to get to the bus stop. And I don't know what I'm going to do for food and everything else. All I know is my rent's paid. And when I move in there, there was a guy living in the back house, and we started talking. And when he heard my story, he's like, oh, you've got to meet my ex-girlfriend. She loves all this kind of stuff. And so he brought her over the next day, and her and I started talking. And I told her about how I rode my bike all the way over the mountain, and she said, I have a truck that I never use. You should just drive it. So she actually loaned me her truck, and then we developed this relationship where whenever she had to go out of town, I would drive her to the airport, and while she was gone, I would use her truck. So the way all of this manifested, and this is within 24 hours of me deciding what I wanted and feeling it in my body and believing it, it just all was laid out for me. Now, there's a lot more to the story that evolves afterwards, but I will say that, I forgot to mention, the land that I wanted to buy was right down the road from this woman's ranch. So I got the opportunity to sell my crafts, I got the work in exchange for rent, and I was right next to the land I wanted to buy. And I ended up renting that land from the owner, and it wasn't a rent to own, I was renting it, and just, thinking I was somehow going to manifest the money, but it fell through, and that was really good because it was not the right property and it didn't have a good well for water and all that. But anyway, I could never, ever, after this experience, doubt the power of believing. And that's why my life just gets easier and easier and easier and easier, because my faith gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Your mind is powerful. I'm getting a lot of people talking to me now saying, can I come live with you, or can I come work with you, or be an apprentice, or whatever. And the main thing I want to share with you is you can create what you want for you. You've got to harness the power of your focus and the power of your mind. So much in society is distracting you and putting fear in you. Stop all that. Start focusing on what you want and what you burn for, what you desire, and watch miracles happen. It's my goal to teach people how to live more harmoniously and ecstatically and exquisitely with nature. So I'm currently doing a fundraiser so I can buy the property next to me and preserve the wilderness, meanwhile taking down the barbed wire fences, cleaning up all the trash and junk that was left because it was an abandoned property, repurposing a lot of materials and teaching people how they can do that, because I'm super creative and I can come up with ideas to do just about anything from junk. Even be showing ways that you can get rid of the plastic trash and turn it into kerosene. And then I want to establish multiple campsites and hold retreats. So all these people who've been messaging me and saying, can I come live with you, or can I come visit, or can I come stay with you, or can I come be an apprentice, can I come learn? This would give me the space where I could do that and help people to learn to connect to nature and empower them through what I know and what I can share. I would also be growing an enormous amount of wild foods there to help the wildlife and to help feed people from the land, and using a lot of indigenous knowledge and my own innovations. So if you'd like to support my fundraiser and my wilderness preservation and education efforts, click on the link in my bio and you can donate. Thank you.